Well, folks, we've got a man named Tom. Your last name is Mulkey, I believe. Tom, welcome to Beat Diabetes.
Hi.
It is such a blessing to have you. You have really been one of those that had the high glucose, the high A1C, extremely overweight. So we want to start there. But before that, I just want to comment. I was so impressed. You're a fix-it guy. You know how to fix cars. You fix computers. You're a gardener. A very active man.
Yeah.
There came a time in your life when you needed, by God's grace, to fix yourself. So tell us how that really started for you and what your situation was, and at the very worst of things for you.
Well, I guess I'll go back to when I was first diagnosed as diabetic. I'm 49 today. I was first diagnosed as diabetic when I was 28. Um, and my first A1C reading when I found out I was diabetic came back in the 17s. They took my sugar at the doctor's office and the meter just said max because it couldn't read that high. And so that first year or so, I started watching like carbohydrates and really trying to eat like 100 grams of carbs or less per day. And then I went through a bad breakup with a girlfriend, and I ended up not eating for about 3 months. And I lost like 85 pounds, and my diabetes went away for like a year.
So you
Then,
were having a pretty much normal glucose
yeah,
after losing all that weight.
yeah, and I had actually gone off of the metformin that they had put me on, and it was pretty good. And then I met my wife and I got married, and we started eating pasta and bread again, and all that kind of stuff. And I became diabetic really quickly, and eventually I had to go on insulin. And I've tried different shots, Bietas, all that stuff over the years, but it just constantly got worse, and I constantly got a little fatter and a little fatter. And then my health insurance is really terrible where I was working. So I got a new job working at a hospital where I could go and see any doctor I wanted that worked for the hospital, and it was basically free. So I thought that's great. I can go see all these specialists that they want me to see and all that. So I did that. And I had an endocrinologist, a cardiologist, a nephrologist. I had all kinds of ologists. And I went and saw diabetic nutritionists, and they kept putting me on more and more insulin. And every time I went back to the doctor, I put on another 5 or 10 pounds. My A1C was worse. I had to take more insulin. I just got sicker and sicker and fatter than I ever been in my life. And so
All
my
right, let me interrupt for a minute. Let's talk about the nutritionist. You're mentioning that you went to these diabetic nutritionists. We need to know, what did they tell you, and did you comply? Because you're saying it didn't get any better; it actually got worse. So, what were they telling you, and did you comply with
uh,
their ideas?
they mostly told me the same stuff I had learned from previous nutritionists and knew, which was that you need to eat 120 grams of carbs a day. You need to spread that out into multiple meals and snacks, nice and small throughout the day. They would tell me, like, for breakfast, you have a bowl of oatmeal with a sliced up half a banana, and you could put some artificial sweetener on it. They gave me lots of recipes for things like lentil soup and stuff like that. And I really, really tried to follow that for those 3 years. I had times when I had a weakness, or we showed up at a buffet for lunch and I blew it, but those were few and far between. And I it was like the angriest, hungriest I've ever been. Like, I was just always kind of mad and hungry, you know.
Yeah, tell us what your weight was at its very worst.
The very worst was 458 pounds.
Yeah, that
Uh,
that is heavy. That's the weight where you can't hardly fit in an airplane seat or ride a roller coaster. Is that right?
yeah, I couldn't fit in any coasters at that weight. So when we went to the amusement park, I used to just walk around and find a bench and sit down while my wife and son went and rode a coaster. And then we'd walk to the next one, and I'd find a bench and sit down, and 3 or 4 hours of that. And I couldn't walk for the next 2 days because my feet hurt so bad. now I can go to the amusement park and ride coasters and run from one to the next all day long from open to close.
No.
And my feet don't hurt at all afterwards. So
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to me to think that you got this great insurance and you were able to see pretty much anybody you wanted to about any kind of health issue you wanted to, nephrologists and the diabetic specialists, the nutritionists, all these people, and you just got worse and worse. Well, the fact that you're on Beat Diabetes is giving people a hint that it didn't stay that way. So you're getting worse, you're getting heavier, nothing's really working. They're giving you nutrition advice. That's not helping. When did you have that aha moment where things actually made some sense and you started getting better?
yeah, so my last appointment at my endocrinologist, I weighed 458 pounds. I was on 300 to 350 units of insulin a day, depending on how much fast acting insulin I took. And my A1C came back in the 14s. And I just talked to my endocrinologist, what's going on? I'm following the diet. I'm trying to get more exercise. I'm doing everything you're saying, but I am getting worse. And he just like basically said, well, sometimes these things just happen and we're going to have to put you on even more insulin. And he kind of gave me that look like, yeah, I know you have a hidden, bag of Oreo cookies under your bed or something, like he didn't believe I was being compliant with the diet. And that's when I was watching another channel and I saw they had done an interview with Dr. Berry. And I then started watching Dr. Berry and I thought, this keto thing makes a lot of sense. I had tried Atkins a long time ago before I became diabetic and I lost a little weight on it, but I didn't stick with it. And so I just started doing keto. I started doing like low carb veggies and meat and just really sticking to it and not going out of the way for any of the keto breads or keto cookies or any of that stuff. Just stick with whole ingredients. And I lost like 100 pounds in 4 months. I think a lot of that was just water because I was so inflamed and swollen. And then the weight loss slowed down. And then that was 4.5 years ago when I started keto and it slowly came off. But I had times where it didn't come off. But then I started like, oh, I could have these keto cookies. I could have some of this keto bread and just make me a keto sandwich once in a while. And then I'm eating like 5 grilled cheese sandwiches a day with this keto bread. And the weight started to come back on a little bit, but my sugars started to come up. And I also got macular degeneration and started going blind. I had to get shots in my eyes and they had to burn my retinas with laser to stop them from bleeding. It was like $2,000 every month to get this done.
And you were officially on keto during this point. Is that right?
Yeah. But so when I went on keto, I thought, I'm not worried about seed oils. And so one of the things that I did is I found a lot of foods that were low carbohydrate, but still had a lot of seed oil in them. For instance, mayonnaise. I used to like put a jar of mayonnaise in the fridge and it would go bad before I used it all. Now I'm going through 3 or 4 jars a week or every 2 weeks. And so a few months ago, about 4 months ago, I saw a video Dr. Berry did with an eye surgeon, and they were talking about seed oils are the number one cause of macular degeneration. And that, it used to be like 1 in 12,000 people would get macular degeneration. Today it's 1 in 11. And so I watched Dr. Berry talk about the carnivore and I kind of thought, I don't know if I want to do that, but I just did. And I went all in on the carnivore and within a couple of weeks, my eyes started getting better. So I had this like, macular degeneration, like, it's kind of like you looked at the bright sun and then you have that little flashing in your eye for a little while and it goes away. You kind of have that all the time. And I had it like in 5 or 6 spots in each eye. And it would just like my vision would be faded there. And sometimes things would look like purplish instead of in full color. And that completely went away within a couple weeks. And today I have just like a couple spots that will flash in my eye if I'm out in the bright sun and I come into where it's dark. They flash for just a minute, but then they adjust and they're fine. So my macular degeneration is not getting any worse, I think it's getting better. So that's the main thing, I think, was having the seed oils and having like the keto breads and stuff that still have a lot of that different types of wheat gluten and stuff in it, and just eliminating that stuff.
So you kind of learned that just walking through the grocery store and grabbing everything that says keto might not be the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, I basically learned that it's about eating a pure food that's keto, like a real food, and not processed, refined foods that still have a lot of ingredients you can't name.
Yeah. So you were on a traditional diet, then you got diabetes and they told you eat more whole grains, eat more beans. You did that. That didn't help. You went to keto. That helped quite a bit, but then you kind of plateaued, went to carnivore and began to notice even better results, perhaps partly because of the carnivore, partly because of the fact that you gave up on all these keto products. So where are you today in terms of your A1C, your typical fasting blood sugars, that sort of a thing?
Well, my A1C, I don't know. It was my doctor dropped me for being a non-compliant patient, and I haven't gotten a new one yet. I probably will one day, but I don't need to see the doctor. But my blood sugars are typically my morning fasting when I very first wake up before I sit up out of bed. I take my blood sugar. They're coming back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, a lot of times in the 80s. And then I usually don't eat breakfast, or if I do, like on a weekend, it's around 10 or 10:30, and I'll take it before I eat, and it'll be like 100, 105. I'll take it an hour and 2 hours after I eat, and it never gets over 135 or 140. And so, that's fine with me, and I'm still losing weight.
Yeah. So how much weight have you lost up to this point?
Well, I weighed earlier this week. I haven't weighed recently. I was 270 from 458, however much that is.
Yeah. Well, that's a bunch. That's a bunch of weight, and I think you indicated you can now ride in the roller coasters.
Yep, I can fit in pretty much all the coasters. There's a couple I haven't tried yet, but yeah, every coaster I get in, and I can fit in them now and get the bars clicked on my own. They don't have to come and like push really hard to get the bar to click, and they're pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your carnivore diet. Carnivore can mean different things to different people. For something, it means you just eat steak. For some people, it means you make sure you eat a lot of organ meat. Some people include dairy and cheese and cream. Others don't. Tell us about your carnivore. What have you limited yourself to, and what are some of your typical meals?
Yeah, I mean, my meat consumption is probably like 85 to 90% beef. And I'll eat any kind of beef. I buy what's on sale for $4.99 a pound, and I stock up my freezer, and then I eat on that. Sometimes that's hamburger patties. Sometimes that's ribeye. It just depends on what's on sale. I'll have chicken wings, like fried in bacon grease. Occasionally, I have bacon, eggs. I don't eat as much bacon as I used to, but I still like bacon. I have like Redmond's real salt. I pile that on everything. It's really good. And occasionally I'll have what I call a carnivore cheat day, which is where I make something that's keto, that's good keto, but not carnivore. So I really like spaghetti squash. So I'll have a cup of spaghetti squash, which is 6 grams of carbs. I'll make an Alfredo sauce from heavy whipping cream and butter, and it'll have Parmesan cheese, and I'll make some meatballs. I will occasionally have some pickles. I will occasionally have some jalapenos, but those are really rare. So like once every few weeks, I might do something like that. I'll have broccoli. I eat fish probably once every couple weeks. I'll eat oysters, clams, but pretty much just sticking with the meat stuff. And the other thing is on carnivore, I'm not hungry that often. So the last time I ate was last night around 5:30, and I'm probably not going to eat till tonight. I'm just not hungry. I'm not interested in food. I don't even think about being hungry. And then when I get hungry, it's not like I have to eat right now. I can be like, I'm hungry. I'll eat in a few hours.
Well, the
And
thing that's amazing to me is that if you weighed 458 at one point in your life, chances are you were hungry all the time. So you've gone from being constantly hungry to rarely hungry. That's almost miraculous, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I used to go to the Chinese buffet before I was diagnosed as diabetic, and I'd have 10 plates of food, and 4 or 5 glasses of real Mountain Dew. And now the other thing that's happened recently on carnivore is I used to be able to like tear up a 4 or 5 pound chuck roast and just eat that all until I couldn't eat another bite. And now I'm getting full a lot faster. So like last night I had 2 hamburger patties, and then I was full. So I'm eating less and I'm getting fuller as my body's kind of healed more. My arthritis and my knees gone. My torn rotator cuff is healed. I'm really starting to feel better and have more energy. It's like now my body's focusing on like you don't need to eat as much because we need to get this weight off. It's almost like it's just perfectly a natural, normal thing to me.
Yeah. And at your worst, you could hardly walk at all. Now you're going for like hour-long walks sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could walk, but I was always in pain and I had really bad plantar fasciitis. And so if I went to the amusement park, there was like 2 days, it was like walking on glass. I just barely got up and went to the restroom. I would always try to go when I had a couple of days off of work. Um, and now I can just walk all day long and walk miles. I a lot of times do like a 5 mile walk in the mornings. I go out about 6 a.m. and start walking. Um, and I can do the amusement park open to close, and that's me and my son running to the next coaster sometimes. So yeah, my plantar fasciitis is completely gone. I did go see my foot doctor recently, and they were actually kind of looking at the x-ray like, is there more than one Tom in here? Like, what's going on? Because they had taken him years ago, and I had severe arthritis in every toe joint, every joint in my foot, and my neuropathy was much worse. Today, I only have very little neuropathy in my right foot, and my right pinky toe has just a little arthritis in it. And I've gone down a shoe size too. So it's
Wow. A question I like to ask a lot of folks is the lifestyle you have adopted, is this something you can see yourself doing the rest of your life? You're relatively young compared to a lot of people that I interview. I mean, you're just a puppy at, what are you, 49?
I'm 49. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got hopefully a lot of years, several decades left in your life. Can you see yourself doing this when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can. I feel great. I'm not hungry. Food's just not a big deal. I go to lunch with people and they eat lunch and I just get a glass of water and sit there and talk to them. And it's like, it's just, I'm indifferent to it. I don't dislike that it's there. I don't care that it's there. It's really changed my entire relationship with food. I don't see ever not doing this. Number one reason though is because if I go back to eating the way I was, I'm going to go blind, and I don't want to go blind.
Well,
I'm
that's
pretty.
for sure. When you are at your worst and extremely overweight and all kinds of blood pressure problems, all kinds of blood sugar problems, terrible arthritis, uh, if a doctor had simply said, well, you just need to eat less, I doubt if that would. In fact, I'm sure doctors did say that to you. I don't think that really works very well. Why was it you were able to get so motivated so quickly once you really got hold of this, some of the teachings of Dr. Berry and began to understand carnivore and keto?
Well, I think it came to me that I'm gonna die soon if this continues. Right, I can't live like this forever, and I have watched my father-in-law have to go on kidney dialysis, go deaf, go blind, and then die. And I didn't want that to happen to me. And yeah, I kept seeing the doctors and that I kept doing what they told me to do and it wasn't working. And it just, I thought, there's got to be something else that I can try. And so I tried it, and the keto was great at first. And then as it got dirtier, it got worse. But the carnivores really, got everything right back on track.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, Tom, thanks so much for sharing your story. We all have our different approaches, but for you, it looks like carnivore has worked extremely well. I guess in a way you're sort of ketovore because you do a few veggies here and there, but mostly carnivore. And I've always encouraged people to have carnivore days, have carnivore meals. If you're not going to be full carnivore, just use it as kind of a treatment for yourself. And so anyway, you have done exceedingly well. Thanks so much for sharing your story. Any final words for some of those out there that are still struggling?
I just want to say, it's really important for me to kind of speak to people who are in the situation that I was in. If you're seeing the doctor, you're getting sick or you're getting fat or you're feeling terrible, you don't have to do that. You don't have to have type 2 diabetes. You don't have to be obese. You don't have to have cardiovascular disease. You don't have to have a high likelihood of getting cancer and all of these problems that are associated with all of these diseases. I really believe they're 90% related to the diet that you're eating. And if you want to get healthy, you just have to change what you eat. And whether that's just a really low carb, whole carnivore, or you end up going carnivore or a whole carb, low carb keto, or you go carnivore, or you start keto and then go carnivore, or you do carnivore and then add things back in that you've decided you can eat. That's fine. You just got to stop eating the Lucky Charms and the white bread and all that stuff, and you will get healthier and you will feel better.
If you've recently been diagnosed with diabetes and you've just discovered this channel, let me recommend that you go to our Uploads page, which will give you access to every diabetic video we've posted since we began. As you work your way through all our videos, I believe you'll find the help you need. A link to our Uploads page is in the description.